everybody. Welcome to Dharma Punx Seattle. Today we're going to be talking about wise effort. And wise effort is one of the folds of the Eightfold Path. It's number 5. With wise efforts, we are looking at specifically 2 different lists that it touches. And that is the 7 factors of awakening and the 5 hindrances. This is what Buddhism is talking about when it's talking about wise effort. It's not talking about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. It's not talking about grind culture, hustle culture mentality. Wise effort ought not contain strain. I think often when people enter the practice, it can become an Olympic sport, that we can apply the same kind of mentality that we do to work, and that when we hear wise effort, that means push hard, go harder, do more. And it's odd because if you really sit back and think about what is the point of this practice, if the point of the practice is to end suffering, and we're twisted up in our effort, straining to achieve enlightenment or to achieve freedom or to achieve ease, it's probably an indicator that the wise effort isn't placed correctly. And so an emphasis on some of the analogies that have been used, and which is like being a tuned instrument. You don't want the strings too loose, otherwise the instrument is difficult to play. You don't want the strings too tight either, otherwise it will also sound like shit. And so trying to find that balanced effort. And I think for those of us who have grown up in the US, we still err on the side of tight. We think balanced effort means tight. And so it takes some unlearning. It takes some unlearning in order to know what it means to work towards something and not to strain for it simultaneously. I think that's one of the, if anybody's ever tried to get a certain state in meditation, as soon as you start trying, you're fucked. And I think that is the lesson that we can apply on a bigger level. That we're sitting there in our meditation practice, and we're like, man, I would really like the meditation to be like that one time when the awareness was like everywhere and it was big and I felt at ease in my body. And you're like trying, and it doesn't generate, it doesn't populate because you're straining. There's also a subtle aversion to what it's like right now. And I've seen it in my own practice where I've had those moments of like, okay, fine, I let go. Okay, but I let go, so come here now. And even that. So it takes a full letting go, a full surrender. And so there's some debate. I just got back from retreat on this specific topic. I had planned this topic before I went on retreat, and talked to my teacher a little bit about it. And there's some debate here on the skillful means. But one of the ways that wise effort is applied is through trying to eliminate the 5 hindrances. And so the 5 hindrances are craving, aversion, restlessness, and worry. So I just kind of anxiety, sloth and torpor, and doubt. And so wise effort meaning trying to get rid of those and cultivate the 7 factors of awakening. And I'm not going to list all of them, but because that would be a much more expanded situation. But what we can synthesize that down to is trying to generate positive qualities and not being passive about the negative mental hindrances that are present. So the conflict that I was talking about is whether or not we should be passive. Because ultimately, if we, let's say, have laziness present, we want to do what we can to eliminate that hindrance. But at the same time, we don't want to become averse to it. So that would be the worst action. Then now you're just in 2 hindrances. So it's better to be at ease with it than to hate it. So coming at it from that perspective. With that, I'll let you guys get into a group and discuss the question, which is which one of the 5 hindrances seems to be the bigger struggle at this point in time. As a reminder, that's doubt. So just having a sense of doubt for the practice, the Mara mind coming in and saying, this isn't ever going to work. What are you thinking? You think and an analogy that was given in Buddha's enlightenment was the final, like the Mara's final form was doubt. After he had tried, so many of the hatred of the hatred of trying to, throw arrows at the Buddha, after trying to show craving through, depictions of women, and that was the last thing he turned to try and steer the Buddha off the path was, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Sitting beneath a tree? You think that's going to do anything for you? You're a waste of space. So doubt, craving, the needing to have things, I can't tolerate this current state the way it is. I need it to be different. Aversion, similar. I need it to be different, but in a hating way. Sloth and torpor, laziness, fatigue, and then restlessness, which can be summarized as anxiety. So thinking about those 5 and breaking out into your, let's do split down the middle. So we'll meditate for about 30 minutes. Finding a comfortable way to sit that is upright without being rigid or stiff. Striking that balance between being upright without rigidity and softness in the body. Beginning by scanning the body for any tension that you might have brought here with you. Checking in on the belly and softening. Letting the shoulders fall away from the head, the jaw, slack muscles in the face. Letting yourself arrive here. The mind is going to want to take you to the future. The mind is going to want to take you to the past. And instead, remember your intentions for practice. Remembering the moment when you found the practice and that part of you said, maybe there's something here. As we gather this intention through recollection, keeping a steady pulse on the breath, as it rises and falls in your chest. It's so easy to forget why we started this practice. The moment of care and inspiration. And we can cultivate that. That energy. Opening to the sense doors, hearing, seeing even with the eyes closed, tasting and smelling. It's through our senses that we become craving or averse. The senses make contact and we decide, hate it, want more. And so we practice with the six senses, the mind included in the senses, noting, craving, aversion. Noticing how quickly, as the mind makes contact, how quickly the aversion or the hatred or the craving show up. Uninvited, automatic. Through this practice, we may see that things aren't quite so personal. That the mind, all on its own, makes contact and sorts things into categories. And taking this even further, the contact that's being made is with the four elements. The four elements practice isn't some kind of magical thinking. It's, again, just a way to depersonalize craving. Does it help us dissolve the craving when we remember that the cake is just four elements? the harsh spoken words. People. Through this practice, we learn to let go of aversion, of craving. We learn to let go of these two things that have a hold on each arm, pulling in both directions simultaneously. To stand in the middle of those two things that lead to suffering. That no matter whether the noise is external or internal, slowly letting go of this aspect of practice. Coming back to the breath, the body. Your intentions. And with your intentions, recollecting those who have assisted you, the peers, the teachers, friends and family, community, who have been there. Letting the sense of metta bubble from the recollections of past good deeds they have done for you. Even if it's just a few. As we come to the end of the meditation, bringing continuity through the bell, allowing your eyes to open slowly, holding on to this sense of metta and intention. An analogy that I've used frequently in this room is the idea of looking at the mind as though it's a village, and all of the thoughts being the different villagers. There's certain thoughts of craving. There's the memory of that argument, all sort of living in our village. And that for the most part, if we have enough mindfulness, we don't necessarily have to approach every single thought. We don't have to entertain every single thought. We can we can just wave at the villagers. And when it comes to effort, why is effort? Taking that analogy a little further, we so often come to the mindfulness practice and our village is run by 5 dictators, the 5 hindrances. And the argument that I have for trying to expel them, we don't want them running the show. We don't want them running the mind, craving, hatred, sloth, torpor. But unfortunately, we arrive into our practice and for the most part, majority of people, I would say 100%, but I haven't met 100% of people. 100% of the people that I've met come to practice, and the 5 hindrances are have the government. And we have to learn to overthrow them, and that takes years. It takes years to have a revolution of the heart and the mind. And so an encouragement, there's so much of the Buddhist practice where we talk a lot about the different aspects of suffering. And rather than for the remainder of this talk, me kind of saying the 5 hindrances and the 7 factors of awakening, we'll categorize them as negative mental states, positive mental states, because at the end of the day, every negative mental state is going to fall into one of those 5 categories. Even further, all of the negative mental states are going to fall into 2 categories: craving and aversion. I would say that the restlessness can be mental, can be craving and aversion. Sloth and torpor can be that as well. Doubt can be that as well. But sometimes those are more energetic, I feel. They can be more felt in the body, and can be signs that we need to adjust things in our physical health to support our practice. We need to rest more. We need to sleep more. We need to eat better. We need to make ourselves capable of. So negative qualities, positive qualities. And, the Buddha, I think one of the things that comes up in the practice is, on one hand, we do have to learn to tolerate the discomfort, all of it. That, we see microcosms of it in our meditation practice as the noise and the chaos of all of the stuff that was going on outside of this room. And, the aversion that can come up from that, the aversion that can come up from sitting in the shitty chairs, the aversion that can come up from my achy knees. And to learn to tolerate some amount of that discomfort, because that's, as maybe a lot of you saw, where the craving and aversion is born. that pain arises, and without much of our will, we're being pulled by both arms in both directions. And further, with these negative states, being able to bring them down to one of the 5 hindrances. So I think so often we can sometimes having a larger vocabulary makes it more personal. I don't know if you've experienced that in your relationship to your suffering and pain, but you know, I have so many like brie-shaped pains that are like really specific to me and my story, and being like, yeah, this is like that kind of like abandonment that like only I feel. And when I kind of just toss it into one of the 5 hindrances, I don't get to like continue that narrative. It's just sloth. It's just craving, period. I can, and in that, if I can let myself do that, you know, so often that question of like, how the fuck do I let go? There's one way. Let it just be one of the 5 hindrances, not this beautiful, special, unique, suffering treasure that we have discovered. And so we do our best to prevent these things coming up. We talked a little bit about this in the wise understanding and the wise intention, that so much of our practice can be aided by renunciation, and renunciation not being about trying to, you know, quit cigarettes and maybe, you know, do that, but like renunciation being I'm quitting ill will, I'm quitting hatred, I'm trying to let go of these factors, and that bring up the 5 hindrances. I'm taking that preemptive step of saying I'm going to let go of these types of qualities that I see that they're not useful in my path of trying to be free from suffering. Obviously, as we know, we can decide many things, and deciding one thing and that actually happening is another. But setting the intention, I think, can be a start. So the Buddha says that, you know, that's where we start. We start with renunciation. That ultimately, you know, what do they say, that a pound of prevention is worth, what is that analogy?
An ounce of prevention, worth a pound of cure.
There we go. Yes, that like that. Thank you. Is a little bit of what the renunciation is about. That we can try to just prevent the hindrances from occurring to the best of our ability. But if anybody's been here long enough, you know that, like I said, the decision can be made and they're just gonna keep fucking showing up ruthlessly. Our 5 Donald Trumps are ruthless, and we do not have very much control over them. And so the next thing we can try to do is attempt to replace the thought. I think in sort of the pop modern psychology, you know, this might be affirmations or something of that sort. But from the Buddhist perspective, it's trying to cultivate opposite, So this is why when I start so many of the meditations, what I have you do is get aligned with your intention. Because what often comes up when we sit down for meditation is we're like, ew, I don't want to. This feels gross. I don't really want to sit here right now. I want to think about what I should eat for dinner. And so when we cultivate the opposite, we remind ourselves of what our intentions are, what the bigger scope is. So this is more than just taking hatred and now I'm going to be happy, because that's not something that's really, really possible. But we can take hatred and try to care about our pain, right? We can have craving and care about the fact that we're in a place of dis-ease. If it's sloth or restlessness, we can try to bring energy to our practice, or we can try to bring tranquility to our practice. Which, for those of you who I'm naming 7 factors of enlightenment, of awakening here. These are all plugging in. So we try our best to replace them. And then we find out that we're doing our best to replace them, and this still isn't working. This is still really fucking hard. And if generating the thoughts isn't able to help, one of the unpopular opinions nowadays in psychology and to be used wisely is suppression. That the analogy the Buddha gives is just as a stronger person would push down a weaker person, so too we would do that with negative mental states. That as the last ditch effort, you've tried all of the other options. The last thing to do is just be like, fuck you. Shut the fuck up. And just doing our best to ignore. I think that, it's that balance, because we have come to practice to become more aware, to understand our feelings, to develop a bigger lexicon, to expand in so many different ways. And so we resist these ideas of suppression or of replacing the thought, because so often in our own lives they have been misused. We have used that to maybe stuff our feelings, and we're just like, damn, I'm just now fucking getting acquainted to what's going on in here. Now you're telling me to suppress it? And again, this being the last ditch effort. You have your 5 dictators. You've tried your best to negotiate with them, and they're not fucking listening. You have not developed the skill yet to negotiate well. So your last ditch effort is to, I wanted to say Dutch oven them, just be the stronger person and get them away.
Just give them a noogie.
Exactly. And somebody asked me today, what's the difference between ignoring my feelings and letting go? It's a good question. I think it's a really fucking important question too for our practice. Because as I said, we come to this mindfulness practice, we come to awareness, and like the people in the village, we have these negative thoughts that come up to us. And every time they approach us, we interrogate them. We're just like, why the fuck are you here? What are you doing? And it's like, we're allowed to just let them be. We don't have to interrogate them every single time they come up. We're allowed to ignore them. You're allowed to put your phone on Do Not Disturb. But the difference between letting go and the difference between letting go and stuffing. Letting go is, stuffing comes from aversion. Stuffing comes from a place of, I don't want to deal with this, or maybe I don't know how to deal with this. And so I'm not going to. I'm going to pretend that it doesn't exist. And letting go is the exact opposite, because you have to be aware fully of the feeling. Some amount of care has to be present. And then the letting go process isn't saying I won't ever do anything about it ever. It's saying I'm not going to do anything about it right in this second because it's out of my current sphere of control. There's no step forward for me to take, and I'm going to stop pretending that there is. I'm going to stop pretending that there is. The last thing I'll say on wise effort is putting a little bit more emphasis on the restlessness and torpor dichotomy. I think it's one that many people struggle with a sort of pendulum swing on, that we don't know how to motivate ourselves unless there's like a gun to our head saying you have to do it. And then we go full force, and then we burn out and fizzle out and we don't do anything. And so that being what the Buddhism is trying to point to, this cycle nature of the way that we get very anxious, and that's how we motivate ourselves, is through a sense of anxiety. And then that being not a sustainable source of fuel, so we crash and burn very quickly. And so that's what the practice is trying to pull us out from, and energetically, to try and give us a sense of energy that is, I don't want to say balanced, because I don't believe in balance. We're going to be tired. We're going to have days that are more energetic. That's, we're not going to be like monotoned in our energy. But that there is a way out of that cycle through the practice and through paying enough attention. And then supposedly, if you do all that, you're what they call a stream enter. So, but who cares, really? I've always been a little skeptical of anyone who has said that they are. And you know, I guess the final thing I'll add on that wise effort is, I think doubt can sometimes look like the opposite, that we already know it all. And we're doubting the fact that there's more to the process. And I caution that perspective. And it's something that I've personally fallen into a lot because, you know, have had a big, fat old ego about practice at times, and have, you know, just been like, yeah, like I think I got things pretty squared away. Like, yeah, maybe I'm still suffering, but like I get it. And so often I've been able to blow the roof off of that level of understanding and open up more. And so anytime I'm on meditation, and especially when I'm on meditation retreat, really trying to come at it from the perspective, even if I think things are going well in my practice and perspective, kind of being able to look around at the edges of what I feel like is this safe roof that I have made of security, and being like, is there like a secret hatch? Like, could there be more? That, you know, it's such a dangerous place to be in, thinking that we have a full understanding of the practice, because it cuts us off from going further. And maybe you are, but don't, you know, it's better to err on the side of caution, just in case. You could be 2 seconds away from levitating, and you didn't even fucking know it. All right, I'll end there. Any thoughts, questions?
I remember when I first started working on like the self-hatred and the anxiety, and finding out it was perversely harder to motivate myself to do things. I didn't know how to, like, I just knew how to like angry myself into doing stuff.
Yeah.
It's really confusing.
Yeah. I relate to that, have that sort of slump of motivation that occurs when you're not hating yourself into activity. How do you love yourself into activity?
Right.
And, you know, I think good parents maybe are a model of this. Good teachers, good parents, not all parents. Good parents. You know, the way that a good parent motivates a child to brush their teeth when they say, "Nyah," because that's all we really are. We're just like little children who don't want to fucking brush our teeth. Okay. I'll end there. Donna? The suggested Donna for this group is $5 to $10. It's offered freely though, so if you do not have anything to contribute, that's totally fine. Buddhist teachings are always freely offered. And then, yeah, let's dedicate the merit that any goodness that came from practice here today be spread above and below to the seen and the unseen, to those being born and to those who are dying. Thank you all.